So we are Topia.io. We are the small traveling contingent of a much larger team at Topia that brought together what we're honored to be here to present today. Topia is a social experience and community engagement platform. And what we've just built is the Topia Game Engine with a Blockly-based game builder. So yeah, my name is Chris Psiaki. I'm Topia's CTO. With me,
my name is Dalton Gray. I'm a senior software engineer at Topia.
And Dan Liebeskin, he's with us too. He's our CEO. He's here to keep an eye on us. I think that it'd be great to sort of start with just a quick explanation of what the Topia platform is, because most of you might not just be familiar with it at a very base level. So Topia is basically a platform that hosts virtual worlds, and it's all browser-based, so it's super accessible. You navigate to a Topia world by just typing in a URL in any browser, preferably Chrome, of course. Topia.io/ and then any word provides you with a world there, and that's the namespace that you'll be interacting with other folks at. So I'm navigating to Topia.io/ SDK-demos, where we have a few little clickables in here. And typically when you land at a world, it's typical of like any meeting software. You get to configure your camera, your microphone, give yourself a name, but then the crucial difference is that you also get to pick an avatar. And so when you click Enter World, instead of joining just a meeting room where everybody's a square, Anna, she's on our team, she's up in Seattle, instead of just everybody has a square and only one person can hold the floor at once, you can navigate with your arrow keys or clicking with your mouse. And when you walk up to another avatar, you will connect with them on, hi David, you will connect with them on camera and microphone. You will see and hear them, and they will see and hear you. And if a third person comes up, now we're on a three-way call, and of course David just walked away, so he disconnected from us. And I have an incognito window over here, which the camera's off, but you basically connect to who you're standing near in this world. And so you just have to use your imagination. There could be hundreds of avatars in here. Very unstructured meetings can be set up just by navigating around and deciding who you want to engage with. And we have a bunch of other features like broadcasting, so just like I'm holding a microphone, everybody can hear me. Same thing in the world experience. The worlds are also deeply customizable. This world happens to look like this because this is how it was designed. But if you know how to make a PNG, you know how to build a Topia world. And so as an administrator of this world, I can click on the edit button, and when I hover over the elements in this world, you'll see this little edit pencil show up. That denotes an individual asset, right? So there's lots of assets that have been very purposefully placed in this world. And when you click on edit, you get to add functionality to these assets. You can add media, links, and one of our crucial feature systems is this zone feature system. You can configure these assets and the perimeters of these assets to have special behavior. Something like a private zone creates like a little special bubble where you'll connect on audio and video to just the people that are inside that asset and not the people that are standing outside of it. So you can set up, very intentionally built experiences like speed dating or I don't know, something, right? And so this zone system is the basis for the next system that we've built, which is the game engine system. So everybody that enters a specific asset that is running a game engine will download the Blockly built game definition together, and they will run the same game. A host will be picked of all the participants inside of that zone. That host will be the central state controller of that game, reporting and syncing state to the other participants. So in this demo video, we have created a game zone with Blockly, and the game that was built and is being run is sharks and minnows. So the red avatars are sharks, the blue are minnows trying to find the safe zones, and the red sharks are trying to eat all the minnows. And so, this is this is a very interesting way of creating dynamic events. And what you can have are multiple instances of sharks and minnows all within one world, hundreds of participants, and you get to spatially navigate and spatially matchmake your experience with whichever instance of sharks and minnows that you want to. So, next slide.
Yeah. So, Blockly and this game editor allows us to create lots and lots of these experiences very quickly for the primary users of this platform, which are students. But it also opens doors, which we're really excited about, for the eventual obvious holy grail here is having students create these games for each other and making multiplayer games. So just a walkthrough of kind of how this editor is set up. Every game has some primary sort of definitions. The game itself is sitting on the Topia platform, so it has access to variables that are in the Topia world. So you have like a list of players that you can access as a developer of a game. You can also create your own variables. So this is the short list of variables powering sharks and minnows. So these variables form like kind of a backing data structure that then powers the Blockly engines. You also can listen to events from Topia. So there are collision events, for example, in the sharks and minnows demo, where we are able to add more events all the time. This whole thing is event-based. You can also create your own custom events, and these events can be transmitted within the server, within the client, or between the server and the client over peer-to-peer. So you can create networked events this way. And shout out to Mark, the lexical variables plugin. I don't know if you can find one that... So this guy, this phase ID comes in. Wait. Here it is. On custom events, server phase init, we're able to pull in that phase ID. That's using that lexical variable plugin. We are very fortunate to not... We were like post-fork. So we never forked. We have nothing to fork. We're just like sitting pretty here, reaping the benefits of your plugin architecture. But that allows us to basically, you can create custom events that have payloads, and that can be arbitrary data that can be passed back and forth across the server and the client.
Yeah, so very important server, client, or host and participant relationship here, and the data syncing that takes place from that host's central state controller and the participants as participants, syncing state between everybody in that particular game instance. All right, so we'd like to give a little bit more info about Topia and how we arrived at this Blockly integration. Topia is a peer-to-peer social experience and community engagement platform. It is massively multiplayer. There's an infinite number of worlds that can be on any Topia platform. I'll explain that in a second. It's very accessible, and all of our streaming architecture is peer-to-peer over WebRTC, so it's hyper-scalable and low cost. And one of the things behind the scenes in most of our K-12 use cases is that we deploy a replica of our entire platform to the school district that wants to run one. Very importantly is that we do not have school districts send their children to the Topia.io platform to protect PII and things like that. We deploy the software to the school district. They run their own replica of the platform. They integrate their SSO at the top. And the system that they run gets attributes about the students that then puts them in the appropriate worlds so that you don't have 12th graders interacting with first graders, so on and so forth. So we can create worlds based on these attributes, create worlds that are for special interest groups, create worlds that are persistent playgrounds available for kids. And this is really for improving learning outcomes and increasing retention for digital learners. And one of the things in digital learning that we've learned since we've been here is that kids really want multiplayer experiences, and that most of the digital learning solutions available to them right now are single player. They can be isolating, and we often get requests and feedback from children that they'd love to experience more content in more of a together setting. And so what Topia does is it brings all that content in a social world so that they can interact with the content in multi-person parties. And this helps break down some of the barriers in terms of socializing with classmates, because they can socialize around curriculum and content that's embedded in the worlds. It's all just from hyperlinks and, of course, the networking layer that rests on top of it all. And, of course, they want more games. They want more interactivity. They want the worlds to be integrated to more things. And so one of the things that we developed over the last year to solve this problem is the Topia SDK. It enables the inclusion of third-party apps within our worlds. It can update the worlds in real time. It's interactive. We have a whole library of webhooks that emit events off the platform and then APIs that take instructions back in. But it's not without its challenges.
So, our primary goal is we're trying to create more content for kids. Like they're talking to us constantly. Like our product team has student ambassadors that are giving us feedback. And the number one requested thing is games. They want new games. They want the worlds to be different. They want new reasons to talk to each other. And these SDK, like this experience using the SDK, all of those webhooks that Chris just mentioned, that whole process goes through a multi-phase, like multi-ecosystem handshake to basically authenticate that and take that out of the equation for the SDK developer, but the cost is basically lag. So every interaction in a game of chess is offset by this lag, and kids don't necessarily understand. They're like, oh, there's like the handshake that needs to happen. It's really like valuable in protecting me as a game player. They're like lag, like just in the chat, just all the time. So this is one thing to overcome. Also, we're trying to spit out a lot of these experiences as quickly as possible and really keep these worlds fresh and have new opportunities. So this process is just inherently slow, and it takes a significant amount of work to kind of maintain these repos. And then there's a non-significant amount of DevOps that need you. If you're deploying a server, you have to know how to deploy a server and write a server. And so it kind of eliminates this promise that there could be a student that would create an SDK game because you'd need so much sort of foundational knowledge. And that's where Blockly really kind of closes this gap by making games in Blockly and putting that same game logic that we have powering the chess SDK app, for example. If we can run that right on the user's browser and then just network them together and have them all sync over peer-to-peer, now that's real time or near real time. And we have we don't have as much lag. The other thing here is that I've worked with Blockly as like a facilitator. So for years I worked with Games for Change, which I don't know if anybody's used the Games for Change's curriculum or like the Student Challenge. But basically I would work with kids virtually and in person. And I always saw kids are like trying to make Fireboy and Water Girl, this like online HTML game. They all want to make multiplayer games with each other, and they couldn't really like playtest them in the context that we were using. So it's exciting for me to see this as an opportunity that like this could be something where kids could eventually get in here. Like obviously not right now, like that whole architecture is probably not the place to start, but at least opens the door for us and for this eventual possibility of creating multiplayer games, releasing them where the rest of your school is hanging out, play testing them with your peers, and then just like geeking out, hanging out, and messing around. So this obviously just creates a lot of opportunities that we're really excited about. Right now, this is an internal tool. We're releasing games. These games, sit on all of the things that make Topia awesome. They're all peer-to-peer, hyper-scalable. They're serverless. So if a game gets created we have loop traps, but if there is an infinite loop, it's not going to like crash our client's servers. It'll crash a kid's computer or their browser, their tab. They'll have to close the tab a bunch. But it's safe and it's cheap and scalable. It also the spatial matchmaking. So this Topia world becomes a lobby for these experiences in these games, and it's secure. That world is making sure that there's nobody in there that shouldn't be. Game playing itself solves this problem for us. Like kids want opportunities to talk to each other. They want these social kickstarters and these contexts. And then, we're just really excited for the possibility of games being created by students and connecting games to that SDK and having external partners creating games or interactive experiences that are leveraging kind of real-time effects or animations or collision effects and events. All that stuff can be opened up into our ecosystem. So the exciting stuff is that like in the coming school year, there will be students playing games created with this platform, and this editor will be live. So we're really excited about that.
Yeah, and if you want to learn more, please talk to us. Obviously, we'll open the floor for questions. We have a sign up to join the beta release. Please take down the website if you like. Scan the QR code. Email us, apps@topia.io. We also have the Sharks and Minnows game that I showed you the video of at that URL right now, which anybody is free to join. I'll quickly switch my computer over there just in case anybody feels like playing tag. But yeah, we're super excited to just get deeper with the Blockly community, see how we can integrate our services with all the amazing things that we've just seen here today and are excited to see more of. And yeah, thank you very much.
I think I want to talk to you guys at great length, but I was just wondering if you could. So the code that is being built in Blockly is running on the host user's machine. Is that right? In the browser's tab?
It's both. So you can create a game. A game engine definition has multiple workspaces. So there's a server workspace, a client workspace, and then a game engine. The game engine runs on both. So if you're a client, you'll run the game engine in the client server, and then the server or the client engine code, and then the server engine code just runs on the host. So you can basically create experiences that are all like if you add a sprite to the world in the server engine, for example, that gets added to the game world, everybody will see that sprite. But if you add a sprite just on the client, I can add just a UI element or something that only I will see.
And what's the actual runtime for that code?
It's pretty quick, but we're not using the stepper.
Oh, sorry, I don't mean. I mean like yeah,
the JS interpreter.
Yeah. Like, is it? Yeah, what are you doing in that regard?
Yeah, each of these event handlers gets basically parsed into JavaScript. That event handler itself is what we end up running on an event. So the whole thing is event based, and we spin up, a bunch of the JS interpreters basically, and then that runs the code. And so that is basically an API that we're adding to our application. Has all these cool bells and whistles, and we can just like drop an API into the interpreter and add a block, and then we can run that code.
Thanks.
Actually, I'm curious about the P2P part because we use WebRTC and App Inventor, and we find even in schools blocking WebRTC, which prevents some of the P2P stuff. Have you run into that problem in any of your deployments?
Yeah, this is something that we basically account for at the configuration level with the school. Because we're deploying our platform to their cloud infrastructure, they basically white label their own platform within their cloud. And so we don't really experience that. We also bank heavily on the fact that a lot of these schools provide school computers to the students so they can configure their network in such a way that all of this traffic is allowed through. Where none of the students are coming to Topia.io. Topia.io for us serves as a sandbox, demo space, and then we just deploy the platform to the school. And all we have to do is update containers every time we have a release, once every 2 weeks. We push the container out to our clients, and they have an update.
Making multiplayer games is kind of complicated. I wonder if you've thought about ways to build, take this blocks language that you've made and build a higher level one on top of it, and then maybe another layer on top of that, so you could build a meaningful game with 2 blocks or 4 or 6 or something like that. That would be my challenge to you. If you want kids to make games, make less than 12,000 is a good number of blocks.
Yeah. This is going to evolve. I mean, this is something that we have built just this year, and bundling these blocks together to perform very Topia-specific functionality, or even functionality that users build and then bundle their blocks together as one to serve a specific purpose, is definitely something that we're going to get done here. I'll let Dalton add to that.
I'll just say that we also got we were talking to Josh earlier and just talking about the idea of having solving the problem of making the game engine was one feat, and then this is okay, how do we make this accessible in different ways? And I think a big part of that is what you're saying, we need to be able to run this and have it only have 2 or 3 to be able to really make it very narrow. You're making tic-tac-toe and all you need is this, or you're just making a thing that follows you around in the world and you just need these 2 blocks to make that happen, and then use that on a learning journey so that it's or pathway so it's scaffolded. So yeah, that's a great recommendation.
Mine's more of a comment. So for the beta, which we're launching in 2 weeks, if you want to sign up, we have a bunch of flyers as well, which are probably unnecessary. But we'll give you. We basically have the deployed platforms that Chris was talking about for each school. We also have Topia.io, which is more just for everybody. It's an open platform. So if you sign up for the beta, we'll give you the Sharks and Minnow code for you to be able to play around with as much as you want. We'll also give you a free world where you can have up to 50 people concurrently in there for free forever. And so, feel free to sign up. We'd love to collaborate with you all on making this even more awesome. These have been great suggestions as well. So thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.